As most of us know, PSA has had multiple different types of slabs since they started grading over 30 years ago. But what many of us don't know is how to tell the difference from one slab to another. One of the reasons this is important is because over time, as each slab came out, it seems as if they are grading a little bit more difficult. If they're grading more difficult, it's kind of valuable to know, is this a second generation slab or an 8th generation slab? If they're grading more difficult, that could really affect the value of the card based on the look of the card and the actual condition of the card. So I'm going to take you through the 10 generations of PSA slabs to be able to identify which is which. Now, distinct to the first generation is the long barcode. This is the only generation with a long barcode, and it's the only generation where the font used has a line through the zeros in the label. This makes generation 1 really easy to identify, which is the oldest generation, and quite frankly seems to be the one that was graded the easiest. If you look at generation 2, the back of the label is the same, but there are a couple of changes on the front of the slab. If you look at the top label, it's the first time you'll notice a short barcode. The other thing that you'll notice is that there are not the lines through the zeros that there are in generation 1. But at the bottom, you'll see the hologram on the back is the same hologram as generation 1. The other difference is in generation 2, at the bottom right-hand corner of the front, the PSA logo is pressed or stamped into the slab itself. These are the key things that make generation 2 stand out so that you can tell that it's a generation 2 and not a generation 1. So if you see the hologram on the back that says PSA, it's either a generation 1 or a generation 2, because in generation 3, it changes on the back. Moving forward, starting in generation 3, is the new parent company name logo on the back of the PSA label. If we look on generation 3, a lot of it looks the same as generation 2, other than that part on the back that has changed. But on generation 4, there's a subtle difference. If you look, the font looks a little bit like the original generation 1 font. But if you look extra closely, you'll notice another item that's different. If you look along the top, the barcode on the top is left aligned. In generation 1, 2, and 3, the barcode is indented just a little bit from the player name and the year of the card. But in generation 4 through generation 10, there is not an indent, and that barcode is fully left aligned. That stays in effect moving forward through the remaining generations. So if you ever notice that the barcode is not left aligned, you know you're looking at a generation 1, 2, or 3 holder. In generation 5, the one key change that you'll notice at the top is the font changes back to the font that we're now used to seeing in the remaining PSA holder generations. The other thing that you'll notice is on the back, there is another change to the logo in the wording and the design of the logo on the back of the label. So generation 5, again, moves away from the older looking font to the font that we're more used to seeing now. And on the back, it's got that newer label. In generation 6, again, looks very similar to generation 5, but the logo at the bottom that you'll see, which is on the back, is again a slight change to the wording and design of the back label logo. Other than that, Generation 6 looks very similar to Generation 5. And these two generations lasted quite a while. A lot of cards out there that are still in older holders you'll see in the Generation 5 and the Generation 6 holders. Now, as we move to Generation 7, you'll see the big difference is at the top on the label. This is the first time that the score, that the actual grade is on its own line. In the first 6 generations, the score and grade of the card is next to the name of the grade. So it would say Mint 9 on the same line. Starting in Generation 7, it would say Mint, or in this case, near Mint to Mint. And on its own line, you'll see the 8. When you look at Generation 8, there's a couple of distinctly different changes here. This is the first time you will see on the front the PSA hologram on the front label. This also is different on the back. The wording and design and writing on the back, instead of just being a shiny silver, it is now holographic, and it is more of a rainbow design into the hologram writing instead of just a shiny silver. So this is kind of a big jump from 7 to 8, and you will notice that a lot easier with that PSA logo. Now, it can be confused with Generation 9 because Generation 9 also has that PSA logo on the front, but there are a couple of big changes to the back. On Generation 9, the back has a barcode for the first time, and it also has the serial number. So in Generation 1 through 8, they did not have the serial number or the barcode on the back. Only Generation 9 and 10 have those on the back of the label in the slab. When we look at Generation 10, that is the one that we're used to seeing now. It's got that lighthouse logo on the front, that same logo on the back. The other thing that shows up on the back is the QR code. So you can actually scan the QR code, be taken to the PSA database to compare the picture for authenticity. These are a couple of major changes, and they have kept those changes for quite a while. Now, the problem that we have, though, is PSA did a money grab and is allowing people to reholder cards. And when they reholder a card, it puts the card into the new holder. So there are times that there's a card that was maybe graded 25 years ago, but is in a new holder. That's a problem because we don't know that it is an older grade in a newer holder. So if you see a card out there and it's in an older holder, you'll want to look and see what generation is it, because it will give you an idea of how long ago that card was actually graded by PSA. And as my next video that will be coming soon will show you, is it does seem as if as each generation goes by, they're grading a little bit harder and a little bit harder and a little bit harder. Because of that, the older generation cards, you have to be very careful that you're not buying a card with a nice grade, even though it may not grade in that high of a number if it were to be graded today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you'll check out my upcoming video about the PSA grading comparisons of one PSA grade to another, comparing the older style grades to the newer style grades, and how the difficulty continues to be increasing. So let me know, was this helpful? Did you know these things? Did you know we had 10 evolutions of PSA holders before you watched this video? And if you did, could you tell them apart? And can you tell them apart now? I hope this helps. I appreciate you watching. Please leave a comment and tell me what you think. As always, take a minute, please, like and subscribe.